Chang, do you want to start?
Let's get.
Or do you want to wait a little? You want to wait a little bit?
Yeah, let's wait for 7:10.
Okay, got it.
You want to start?
Let's get.
Or do you want to wait a little? You want to wait a little bit?
Yeah, let's wait for 7:10.
Okay, 3 more minutes. That's fine. Okay. Okay. Hey, Chang, you want to start?
Yeah, let's get started.
Okay. Okay,
So-
great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. 欢迎大家今天加入join SEC 的 Weekly Meetup Events and 我是今天的 host， 我叫倩倩，然后我 full time 是在微软的 Azure Machine Learning Org， 然后我是在 part time 就在创业协会西雅图创业协会 SEC， 如果不知道的话可以在这个 chat 里面可以 type， 如果不知道我可以给你更多 information， 如果想要有什么想要 follow up 的或者想要 volunteer 的都可以跟我联系。然后西雅图创业协会呢，简单介绍一下，我们是一个 NPO， 然后是针对创业社区做一些就是为创业者提供一些服务的一些non-profit organization。然后我们主要的活动就像今天你们众人的看到是有创业以及 career 相关的 weekly meetup events， 也有每年有大型的创业大赛，当然我们也有 provide 像跟创业相关的一些 mentor program 也好，然后有一些创业的相关的一些 service。然后对，就像我刚刚提到，如果想要了解更多关于我们创业协会呢，可以线下跟我们联系。今天我们有幸邀请到 YP 老师陈宇平老师，他有非常丰富的创业投资以及指导的一些创业方向在 both 中美都有非常丰富的经验然后我们今天也非常荣幸能够邀请到 YP 老师，今天接下来相信他接下来会给大家一个非常精彩的一个 talk。然后有一点想提醒的是，如果大家有什么问题，在YP 老师讲的过程当中有什么问题，可以随时举手。如果是举手somehow举手没有被看到或者怎么样，你可以也在那个 chat channel 里面可以 type message。接下来 YP 的那个老师的演讲是会是英文，但是你问问题什么的都可以用中文 ，feel free 用中文，这个没有关系。在这个陈老师演讲过程当中呢，也可以 feel free 去 interrupt 可以问feel free 问问题，不要太拘谨，就是整个过程呢，我们可以更 free 更 interactive 然后那我们接下来就欢迎陈老师，也就是 YP 老师给我们带来今天的演讲，谢谢。
谢谢晴晴大家听到我声音吗？
可以。
Okay. So that's good. Thank you. I'm going to switch to English because I think my Chinese is not great, but I can listen and I can read and write, but my pronunciation is not that great. Let me make an introduction about myself. Actually, I am from Guangdong, Taishan. I left China when I was about 15 years old. I'm in Hong Kong. And actually, when I was in Hong Kong, I didn't have money to go to school. And then I ended up working in a garment factory during the day and study English at night. And I went to New York City in 1980. A few days after getting off the airplane, I worked in a Chinese restaurant, making $2.25 an hour. And my career aspiration is to be a waiter because they were making 4 times more money. Long story short, and I went to one of Ross High School in New York City, and then I ended up studying electrical engineering in college. And after electrical engineering, I was actually a pretty good engineer. I'm sure most of you start as an engineer. I was a pretty good engineer. I worked at IBM until 6 years. And in my third year at IBM, while I was studying at Columbia University for a master's degree, I realized I did not like engineering anymore. So I figured a way to go to do something else. And I just happened to really like the business aspect of things. And then I went to business school. I went to Columbia Business School and under IBM sponsorship. And then after I graduated from Columbia Business School, I was hired by Honeywell. And then and to work at China and Japan doing merger and acquisition. And I stayed there for a few years, and they sent me to Hong Kong. And by the time I started my first business in 1996, and I actually had quite a lot of experience working for multinational for a total of 9 years. And a little bit backtrack a little bit. When I was going to college, I also helped my brother to open his restaurant. And backtrack that when I was in China, actually was a kid. My brother and I, we grew up in a village. My brother and I actually would go to catch fishes in the river. We sell extra fishes to our neighbor for a little bit of money. So in that time, of course, I had no idea what entrepreneurship was. So looking back, that was really a good experience for me. And in China, we sell my extra small fish to the neighbor. And then I helped my brother run his restaurant business. So my first startup, I started it in about 1994, 96 in Hong Kong. And I started with $6,000. I'm going to talk about it a little bit later. So at this point, I just give you an overview of who I am and what my background is because it's very relevant to what we talk about today. And then after I was in Hong Kong, then I started my business. First start with $3,000. I run it for a total of 6 years, part-time and full-time. And I did not lose money. We made back all the money from the investor. I made a little bit money, but what I learned a lot was how to start a business with nothing. And then after that, I went to work for a venture capital group and took an IT company from about 15 people to 70 people in 1 year. So we raised about $5.5 million in the process. We expanded it. Okay. So, and then after that, I sold my equity 2002 and come back to the U.S. For a company based in Florida in consumer electronics. I was the COO, then the CEO of the company. Essentially, what we did was I really engaged on restructuring and turnaround. It taught me a lot about business, difficult business, and also about how the public listed company work in the U.S. So after cleaning up the company in 3 years, fourth year we sold the company, and I moved to Seattle about 12 years ago. In the past 12 years, I primarily engaged in investments, consultancies with companies in China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Korea, and Japan, of course in the U.S. And then I was also invest in equity and in real estate, especially the bottom of the market. So about August 2018, a friend of mine who has a software company, was a software company that was really in trouble. He asked me to come in and take a look. It's a company, a CRM company based in Seattle. So I was a consultant for 2 weeks. Then I became the CEO in September 2018. In January of 2019, my partner and I, we bought the company. And I've been running this company full-time in the past 18 months. Meanwhile, I still continue my consulting business in China and in Hong Kong, in Taiwan. I still continue to do my investment in real estate and also in equity. So I want to give a little bit background because I think what's interesting today, our topic is about mentorship in a startup. And I looking back, is really all the dots connect together. So so that's the reason why I want to open up with my kind of background, give you some idea, my background that is going to help you to understand why I think a certain way, why I make certain recommendations. So any question before I move forward? Any question about my background, why I made a switch, and anything else before I move forward to the topic we talk about today? Okay, so with no question, I want to move forward with my my talk today. First of all, I really appreciate Ching and the SCE for the invitation. I actually my involvement in SCE went back about 11 years ago, and actually when I first came to Seattle, I was invited to give a talk on entrepreneurship on our type of stuff, and I actually one time I hosted 6-hour entrepreneurship staff workshop for SEC. Then since then, I give a couple of talks in the past 10 years. So when we talk about mentorship, one of the things we talk about is, I give you 2 examples here. I talk about my background, and in this is very busy, but essentially my background is, it took me, interesting enough, took me about 23 years. For me, sell DSM in the Chinese restaurant, live below poverty to be the CEO of a public listed company in 23 years. So it took me about 23 to get there. And as I mentioned before, I started my first startup in 1996. And those days, let me give you a little bit background. By that time, 1996, I was working for TRW, IBM, and Honey for about a total of 9 years. Working as an engineer, do M&A acquisition, both in China and the U.S. By that time, I already got my MBA, a master's degree in engineering from Columbia University. I was living in Hong Kong with my wife also has an MBA from Columbia Business School. We did not have a kid yet. So I was facing a dilemma. Option number one is to, in 1996, move to Shanghai for another multinational, become the head of the China operation. The total package was attractive. It's about $250,000. Now, those days was a lot of money. And then my second option is that I could start a startup. Essentially $3,000. My partner and I each put in $1,500. And in order for me to maintain the same lifestyle, I was a consultant to my previous company. It's kind of making $40,000 part-time. So that was my situation. And of course, I think one interesting is that what would you do if you were me back 25 years ago? And that was a very, very difficult decision. Looking back, I wish I have a mentor who I talk to and kind of really understand what I was facing. And ultimately, I decided to choose option 2. I never look back. But I think it just happened that I kind of made the right decisions at that moment. But one thing I definitely wish is that I have a mentor I could talk to. Any question before I go to the next example? Because I want to make this interactive.
Right. So 有问题的人可以随时举手啊，或者是在 Q&A 里面可以 post。如果您举手之后，我就可以让你说话。There's a question in the chat channel, 陈老师。
Okay, chat channel. Okay. Why do you prefer option number 2? Okay. Why do you prefer option number 2? Because I realized that if I went to option number 1, I get used to a very comfortable style, a very huge salary. I will have no incentive to go down to take a very risky option, become an entrepreneur. I realized that for my personalities, I like the freedom. I feel that I'm confident I could do things better than my boss who I work for. Some of them have a lot of respect, but most of them I did not have a lot of respect. I thought that before we were kids, I want to try my luck. So that's the reason why I chose option number 2. And looking back, I never regret that.
So another question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so 陈老师，还有一个问题是，有人问你觉得你 make the right choice, right option?
Yeah, looking back, I said I did make the right choice because what happened for me is pretty unusual for myself in the sense that I feel extremely comfortable switching between being an entrepreneur or professional manager. So for example, I went to become an entrepreneur. My first job, as mentioned before, I ran it for full-time, part-time for 6 years. When the company was not doing well, my staff did not do well because of the 1997 financial crisis. Then I went to work for a venture capital group for about 2 years. And then other staff opportunity comes in. I jumped right into it and go into a company with 15 people and then took it to 70 to about 70, 80 people in 1 year. And then what happened is we moved back from Hong Kong back to the U.S. in 2003. Now we're coronavirus. And 2003, Hong Kong has SARS. The reason my family and I moved back to the U.S. was because of SARS. Then I went to work for a U.S. public listed company, become a professional manager for a total of almost 4 years. So what the option 2 allow me to do is really think about issues, solve business problem very differently, allow me the skill set to have very creative idea, do a lot of things with a lot less resource, very entrepreneurial. They served me well in the past 20-something years.
Thank you, 陈老师。这里有一个人举手要问问题，我现在。
OK， 好。
喂，您好。
你好。
我们可以听到。
我有一个问题想请问一下，您刚刚有提到，就是您希望在那个时候有一个 mentor， 我就想请问，如果就您现在回想一下，那个时候您可以怎么做，然后去找到一个合适的 mentor？ 还有就是您觉得，如果那个时候您有一个 mentor， 有哪些事情你会从一个不同的方向去做，然后会做得更好？谢谢。
对。OK， 这个问得非常好。OK， I kind of look back at my own career. It's probably because of my personality, probably because I never really have the opportunity. People say I never really met someone I call a mentor. I really, I mean, in my career, from time to time, I have issue. I talk to different people, and I wish that I really have a mentor I really respect a lot, and also have a knowledge that I could go to them, go to him or her all the time. But I did not have that. So as a result, I realized that that was something that would be useful. That's why in the past 10 years, 15 years, I have been lecturing in university in the United States, about 4 or 5 universities in China. University, I'm now in a mentorship and I help other people. In myself, look back 1996. If I were having a mentor those days, I really look at the situation might be slightly different. For example, I knew that I want to go for option number 2. But option number 2, under this scenario, one possibility was, looking back, maybe just I do not focus on my consulting to raise $40,000 at my part-time job, but rather I would just raise the money up front, so I could focus full-time on my startup. So that's number 1. Number 2 thing is perspective. When I started my own company in 1996, I was 32 years old. I'll be honest with you, I was pretty confident, because I grew up in China, had nothing. Then went to the United States and went from below poverty to went to Columbia Business School, and it's been of about 14 years. So I also got my degree in Columbia University, both a master in engineering and MBA. I worked at IBM for 6 years. I was a very good programmer. Then I do M&A acquisition in Honeywell, which was extremely difficult to get that kind of job. So to some extent, I was probably over my head. I was a little bit probably too full of myself. So to some extent, I was overconfident. And looking back, I wish someone could tell me just that you're full of it. You should be humble, and you should to look at different perspectives. So it's always something that what I learned over the years is people do not know what they do not know, right? 我们不知道我们自己不知道的东西. I think I think the mentor could provide you so much perspective. Do I answer your question?
Yes. I have a previous question. Is like if it during that time, when you think about it, if you can find a way to find a mentor, what would you do to find a mentor?
Be right for you, I think looking back, I wish I had a mentor then, but when I was in this situation, I did not think I need a mentor.
Oh.
Okay. But part of this, I was full of myself, probably. Part of that was I was overconfident. Part of that was I went from, worked in a garment factory in Hong Kong, age 15, had no money to go to school, live in an apartment for 800 square foot apartment, 15 people, and I had nothing. So I really realized that the best thing is self-independent. So that's the reason why at that time, I did not thought I need a mentor.
I see.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So any more question before I move to the next example?
All right, one more.
Okay.
Go
ahead.
I have
Yeah.
a question. So how do you think the MBA degree help you very much in, how much do you think your MBA help you in your entrepreneurship and for your startup?
Okay. I think MBA both help and hurt me in the same time. MBA helped me because it gave me a lot of tools, such as think about strategically, how to build financial model, how to do valuation, how to do cash flow, how to put a nice marketing plan together, how to put a nice presentation together, go out to raise $5.5 million for the investor. So that is something that MBA helped me a lot. Even today, when I run my business, I know I build my own financial model. So I know that whatever, that all contribute into my MBA. I could look at the balance sheet income statement very well, and I could able to do this DCF, discount cash flow. I could do Black-Scholes option modeling, and that allowed me to do trading stocks. So I know this very well, because they're all thanks to the MBA. It hurt me because once you have so much knowledge learned from MBA, sometimes I overanalyze. I overanalyze to a point that sometimes if you do not know it, sometimes you just go make decision, move forward, and you sometimes it might work out, but it's not more risky. Because I have so much institutional knowledge, MBA knowledge, I try to analyze every situation and to the nth degree, and therefore it minimized my risk, but also kept my upside.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. So, okay, let me go to the next example. So as a result, I wish I had the opportunity. This company is actually based in Seattle. February 25th, about 3 weeks ago, our electron microscope was on a space vehicle built by Grumman, launched to International Space Station. The founder of this company is Chris Owen, the person you see in the article from GeekWire. This is an example of I provide mentorship to a company that went from nothing, a startup, to a company that built 2 world-class technology. The first technology is the electron microscope that is now in the International Space Station. We also won a microscope innovation award in 2018. We have a second product is actually we call Brace Sealing. It's really a system solution consists of hardware, software, robotic, and help to do nano image brain scanning. And our first customer is Allen Institute of Brain Science. They come to us about 4 years ago, and Paul Allen invested total about $1 billion into it. His goal was to understand the human brain, how the neurons connect together. So in those days, they were only able to scan one piece of brain in 72 minutes. And then they come to Chris and said, we need to speed up the process. Can you build an automation solution, help us to reduce it down to about 14 minutes per slice? So Chris built a system, the first generation reduced down to 7 minutes. And now our system could scan 9 slices of brain tissue and capture the image in 1 minute. So Allen Institute of Brain Science went from 1 system to 6 systems. We also sold 3 systems to Princeton University Brain Science. These are 2 world-class brain research institutes in the world. So that is the end result. But I'm going to tell you how we have been working together, helping Chris in the past 7 years. And actually, I met Chris in the SEC conference seminar about 9 years ago when I gave a seminar to about 30 people. Chris happened to be the guy who was asked the most intelligent question out of the 30 people. So I keep in touch with him. We talk a little bit. And a few months later, he came to talk to me and said, when I met with him, he was working for a company that invested by Elon Musk and Peter Thiel. And this world-class, entrepreneur, they invested in a company, put a $40 million investment company in Silicon Valley. They were doing personalized medicines. Chris' job was to design electron microscope, go with a resolution of 1 nanometer, and capture the DNA in a very highly automated speed. So he finished the alpha version, and unfortunately, the company did not run well. And they also lose a key scientific benchmark to a company funded $200 million in the UK. So Elon Musk said, I don't want to be second company. He pulled a plug. So Chris will try to buy the company, the IP that he invented in the company. So he approached me. So together I helped him to structure the deal, to bought all the IP he invented in that company, and as well as about $2 million worth of equipment. So we did not pay any money. We did not pay any money to structure that thing. And then since, so I came on board, become Chris's advisor, mentor, and also a shareholder. So over the past 7 years, Chris is really a world-class scientist. He got his PhD at Northwestern University. He also was the Hearst Foundation Fellow, and each year the Hearst Foundation grant to about 10 people. Each one of them get $250,000 to do what they want, type of thing. So I realized it's pretty unusual about Chris. So I decided to get him out, help him out. So over the past 7 years, he's really singularly focused on a lot. He's a good technologist, focused on coming with a new product, really creative solution. So my role was helping with a lot of the strategy, the business side, the financial, bounce idea about raising money, and help him to hire a few critical engineers, and as well as help him do some of the legal issue, some of the accounting issue. So essentially what I did was I covered the thing that Chris was not trained on it or didn't have the right skill set, and so I've been working with him for the past 7 years, right before he started the company. So my role is basically helping him anytime between, a few hours a month to about 20, 30 hours a month type of thing. So sometimes when he gets stuck, he have an issue, come to talk to me, I break down the issue, allow him to make decision. So that is kind of interesting, pretty unusual arrangement that I have that is going to highlight the example of how we effectively use a mentorship and advisorship to help the company that normally found by technology people, but they don't have everything they need to run the company. Any question on this example before I move forward? Okay.
I think we can move forward.
Okay. So there's no question, and then I'm going to move forward because I'm going to come back and touch on this a little bit later too. Then I want to share with you from my perspective because I think it's important for us to understand holistically. Before we talk about mentorship, I want to break down the component of a staff. What do we need? But obviously, especially in this time, a lot of startups start by founder or employee who has the technology, right? That's usually how we started it. And then the second key thing is once you have the technology, people say, oh, I need to raise money, right? Money usually, if some people have their own money, that's good. If not, they go to family member or friend or go to investor, right? The third component is really the business side. The business side is what I talk about. Really, you need professional, you need accountant, you need lawyer, you need financial advisor, you need people who advise you what to do, because my engineer did not know this kind of stuff. People thank you. When I was in IBM, when I was an engineer at IBM, I thought the engineering was 70-80% IBM's value. But after I get my MBA from Columbia Business School, then I realized the engineering was probably 20-30% of the value for IBM. There's a lot more involved than just be an engineer. So that's the perspective I did not have, I did not have before. But experience would tell me that that makes sense. So I want us to think about, realistically, if we talk about stuff, these are three components we are facing. And the question is that I look at this two ways people approach stuff, right? One is technology driven. Come up with technology and then look for application. The perfect example now is we talk about AI, right? Artificial intelligence. Everybody's talk about artificial intelligence and data mining these days. But there's a very few applications that the customer will pay for. Today, I talked to someone who's a technology founder in Silicon Valley. He moved to Seattle. He has about 50 people. He pitched to me that he's very good in AI. My question to him was, they said, do you have any application in an AI that really the customer will pay for? And so far, he could not come up with it. So what I see is the lot of technology-driven stuff. The bigger challenge for them is really look for application the customer will pay for. So that's one approach. The second approach is identify what the business issue is or what the problem is. Then use technology to solve it. For example, my first startup, we try to solve a problem in a commercial laundry that we use less hot water and use less chemical, be environmental friendly. Unfortunately, I was 20 years ahead of the time. And looking back, I was 20 years ahead of the time, right? If we do it now, it's a different outcome. So I want to think about, especially in time, if you start as an engineer, you tend to think about technology driven. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just you got to understand the different approach might have a different implication, might need different resources. Any question in this concept, because that's important? Okay, so there's no question. I want to move forward. And then, as I mentioned before in IBM, I thought engineering was 80%, the equation was engineer. But after I went the MBA, I look at this diagram. I hope you see the diagram. Look about it. There's actually 12 dimensions to a business to do analysis. So engineering is 1 out of 12, right? You think about your bundle engineering, product, and manufacturing together, is really 20-30% of the entire equation. And that's the reason why after my MBA, I realized the engineering, production, and manufacturing only 20-30% of it. As a business, even a startup, we need to think about the other 70-80%. For startup, the most important thing is cash flow. When I was the CEO of a public listed company, at 4 years, 3 times, I almost didn't have money to pay the payroll. Think about it. You have 30, 40 people. If you could not pay them, do you think these people are going to show up the next day for work? Right? Especially when people, like 60% of the people in the United States live from paycheck to paycheck. So cash flow has become such a critical aspect of a business, especially startup. So I want us to keep that in perspective. So when you evaluate startup, technology products are important, but think about other aspects of the business as well. Right? And then when you run a business, we got to think about business model. And that's what's the business model? On the last show, I want to define a business model in 3 ways. One is what's your market? Who's your customers? You got to understand that quite well. The second thing, within the market and customer, what kind of product and service you want to provide to them, so they will pay for it. And third thing is, what kind of channel distribution are you going to sell to these customers? The thing about it, I know we go to business school, they give you a very complicated Michael Porter 5 force, a bunch of very complicated business model. On a nutshell, you think about business model, those are 3 most important components. So whenever you think about the business, think about it this way. Any question? Okay. And then the next thing is that, and we'll talk about the team. Build a good team. What does it mean a good team? To me, an ideal team consists of 4 elements. One is you need someone who's a very good thinker. And second, you need someone who could get things done, a doer. And third, you need someone who could sell. And fourth, you need someone very good with people, how to manage the relationship with the employee and your partner. It's not easy for a CEO or a founder to have all these 4 skill sets. Actually, probably less than 3% of the people globally have these 4 skill set balance. For a lot of founders, either will have 1 or 2 skill sets that stand out, but they're very bad in other stuff. If that is the case, what do you need to do to get a team of people that are complementary to yourself? For example, I was a pretty good engineer. I used to write microcode, which is not part of firmware. But I've not touched programming for about 35 years. So when I bought this CRM company, I realized that I need 2 group of people. Because I'm very good at strategic thinking. I'm a doer, but for my business, I need a very good salespeople. So I have 2 salespeople to buy in 10% of the company. As a technology company, I need a very good CTO. I'm outdated in terms of technology. Then I brought the CTO who come to work with me. My CTO was raised up in Mississippi, moved to Seattle with his family. He went to UW. When he was in UW, he wrote a program for his professor. His professor gave him $80,000 so he get a free ride in UW. But then he realized his professor, based on his work, made millions of dollars by he sold the programming to his software to the Google. Then he went on to Columbia University for his master's degree in computer engineering. And he paid himself, worked in 2 stops, paid for his degree in Columbia University. And then he went to MIT Media Lab, get his master's degree in Media Lab, and he did not pay any money. MIT gave him a free ride, and after that, he come back to work as a project manager in Microsoft for a few years. He spent his spare time. He was actually one of the early cryptocurrency experts. At one point, he has a lot of Bitcoin. And then I know him for 6 years before I pull him in. And interesting enough, I have a problem that I was asked my VP of engineering. I said, if we solve this problem, how long does it take? How much it costs me? The guy said, oh, our contract in Eastern Europe could do it for $10,000. It's 1 month. I called up this guy and said, how long does it take you to take care of this problem? He looked at the problem. He said, send me what the problem is. He called me back in 30 minutes. He said, I try to fix the problem in 15 minutes. I said, okay, if you fix it in 15 minutes, I pay you $3,000. He come over to my office, and then he fixed the whole problem for 45 minutes. But he spent 30 minutes helping my VP of engineering to figure out some other networking related issue. So he essentially solved our problem in 15 minutes. Then I realized that I need this guy to be my CTO. Then I made a deal with him so he become my CTO. So as a startup, one of the things that is important is you need to have a perspective. Understand what you do not have, and then go out there to identify the people that you do not, to identify the skills that you do not have, so complement, so you will have a very good team to go out there and solve issues. Any questions?
你好，陈老师，我有个问题就是
Yeah.
how did you find the salespeople, and when you interview them, what are the good attributes you are looking for?
The salespeople is that the best people sometimes is the people you have. Because the salespeople, our product is a CRM software product. The learning curve for the best salespeople is 3 to 6 months. Given we're in a turnaround situation, I could not afford to bring a new person in 20 to 6 months. So essentially with the 4 people in my company, I evaluate all 4 of them. One guy has been with us for 10 years. This guy is a top performer. He consistent, do really well. And he's in, so I say, okay, you're my partner, okay? A second guy with the company for a year. Actually, he did not finish college. He went to Bellevue College, but this guy is very smart. He has a lot of common sense. He was able to figure out a lot of stuff on his own. That this guy had potential. That made him the partner too. So the key thing sometimes is be very fair you, because I only have about 25 years working experience. I used to manage salespeople. I run startup. I run public listed company. So the criteria that I'm looking at salespeople, number one, they got to have a big ego. The salespeople, if the salespeople do not have big ego, do not have confidence, they cannot sell. So that's number one thing. But the opposite of big ego is that they are very difficult to manage. It's a double-edged sword. So salespeople, number one, they've got to have big ego and self-confidence. Number two, a lot of salespeople are driven by money. So you got to structure the incentive in such a way, the more they sell, the more money they're going to make. Okay? And the third thing is that I put in a quota. I just said, I give them a low salary. I give them huge commission. So I want them to fight for what they want to make. So that's how I put my sales team together.
Got it. Thanks.
Right? Any other question? Okay, so no question. Let me move on to the next thing. As we know, and actually a lot of founders thought that their job is to come with a product and the technology. You think about it, that's for one or two main company. But once your company gets a certain size, the key job for the founder entrepreneur is not going there to actually write code and figure out this problem. Essentially, the startup, the founder has three key functions. One is you got to set a strategic direction and a strategy. For example, the reason why I came out with Chris in Mark's side was he knows since day one. He's very clear. He said, I'm going to take this 1 meter tall electronic microscope that could go into 1 nanometer picture. They could capture 1 nanometer picture. I want to shrink it down to 25 centimeter to about 100 nanometer. He knows the goal very clear. In the past 7 years, he never deviated from that goal. So that is one thing that's very critical. His direction is very clear. Then I help him to formulate his strategy. So that's number one, what the founder need to do. The second thing is one of the most critical things of a founder is really secure resources. That resources is not only money. It's the people, it's business partner. For example, Chris is really good with business partner, getting technical sales. He also gets some of the money from angel investor. Then I help him with recruit a few very good engineers to work for him. So that's the reason why the resource is important. And the third thing is that there's a lot of people make mistakes. Is that everybody said they could do a lot of stuff. When they pitch to the VC, pitch to the investor, they say, I could do this, I could do that. But in the end of the day, they could not deliver. 中国是讲叫天下无敌，做的时候就是有心无力，对吧？ Basically, just they say they could do a lot of things, but in the end of the day, they could not get it done. So I think that is the key thing. As entrepreneurs and business people, the most important thing, get things done. When you promise the investor or your partner you're going to get things done, you get it done. For example, when we would deliver this project to NASA, VAXA, we initially, actually NASA would have given us actually quite a lot of money, but we missed the deadline to apply for funding. So we didn't have money, and we are really scratching ourselves because we blame ourselves to not get it done. And then the NASA said, okay, I'm going to give you a different bucket of money, but you need to deliver based on benchmark. The benchmark normally to get a product like this to space is about 5 years. Basically, they gave us 9 months to deliver a product. Originally, we were scheduled to go up to the space in SpaceX in December 2019. We're supposed to deliver our product to NASA in July for all the tests. We keep delaying. Before you, I lose confidence myself too, that our team will deliver. But for all the miracle, Chris pulled this off, and we deliver our. Then the NASA realized it will probably delay. They schedule us for a March 2020 flight. But Chris really worked hard and the team worked hard. We were able to deliver our product to NASA in December. And then they move up the delivery schedule in February. So looking overall, we were able to deliver a product, a space quality to NASA in about 11 months. That itself is a miracle. End of the day, doesn't matter what you said. The most important thing is we get it done. So that's why the most important thing as a founder is get things done. Any question about execution? Okay, so then I move forward. Why do we need mentorship? Let's go back to understand how we make decisions. Especially in the age of internet, we have what we call information overload, right? Each day, I mean, you and me have so many WeChat. And we, every morning I read Wall Street Journal, I get New York Times, I get Yahoo News. There's so many news. We got information overload. The question is now, there's a lot of people making money, making a good business by organizing massive information into data. That's the reason why we're data analytic, data mining, right? So organize data, and then that's where most companies start. The question is that, how do you convert the data into knowledge? All the professors at university, all the researchers are really good at this thing. They take a lot of data, they synthesize it, they convert it into knowledge. However, a lot of professors, they have a wealth of knowledge. They might not have insight, they have experience how to use this knowledge to run a business. For example, I know a lot of finance professors. They can talk about financial model, they talk about investment, they go how to do option valuation, but they're terrible investor in stock market. So there is the big gap between knowledge and insight, right? And finally, is even if you have insight, how do you make decisions? Do you have insight and make decisions? One of the things I mentioned before about the MBA both hurt me and helped me is MBA helped me to organize the data, convert it into knowledge, and have insight. But sometimes the insight prevent me from making decisions. So that's the reason why sometimes having insight, have experience, has people who done that, it help you to make a better decision. And that's the reason why mentorship, the perspective is very important. Any question on this? By the way, you want to understand a little bit more, go to my LinkedIn. I wrote a short article on highlight these 4 or 5, 6 blocks here. Go to my LinkedIn, I have an article there. Okay, so let's move forward here.
Sorry, 陈老师， 有一个
Yeah.
听众有问题。
OK， 什么问题？好，请讲。
Oh, hi. I actually has a question about the execution you mentioned before. So
Yep.
when you see problems in execution that which will lead you needs the deadline, what would you
Yep.
choose to give up first to meet the deadline? Will you cut off the scope or lower a little bit of the quality or something else? Or you would choose to push to defer the deadline? What would be your choice? Thank you.
I think that the tool is like this. Really, it depends on your situation. For us, let me give you an example of NASA. NASA is that we could not sacrifice the quality because the quality, if we do not pass the NASA test, it's not going into International Space Station. So quality must pass because for the safety, for example, one of the things we were dealing with is the magnetic interference generated by our power supply. in the International Space Station, if we have too much magnetic interference, it will interfere with the performance of other equipment. It could potentially put the astronaut into danger. Therefore, the quality could not be sacrificed.
Makes sense.
And the scope could not be reduced because in engineering and a product, there's no such thing as 99%, right? 99% of a software, it does not work. Therefore, we could not sacrifice the scope. So the only thing we could sacrifice is the time. That's why NASA original gave us push from December 2019 launch, then they push it to March 2020. Then we finish deliver on time, they push up that 1 month in February. So that is that particular situation. So it's really a situation dependence.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Okay. Any other question? Okay. So let's say you don't have a mentor. I was in 1996. What do you do? For me, actually, I talk to my wife because she has an MBA. She thinks different. She provides me actually quite a lot of perspective. I talk to my family friend. I talk to my close friend from Columbia Business School. So I reach out to, sometimes you don't have a mentor. They just reach out to the people you know. And then sometimes you could just go to trade show, go to meet other people who might be from the industry, ask for help. Of course, initially, you might not want to devote too much about what you do. And then a lot of times you give feedback by test your idea with different investor, especially angel investor. And then when you're ready, when you present it to the VC, an institutional investor, and that's where you get a lot of feedback. Because the probability of getting VC is maybe 5%, right? That means even Ma Yun, before he get the money, he approached about 100 VC before he get the money. And because actually, I did talk to him in 1999, we met before. So in Hong Kong, and actually Joe Tsai is a good friend of mine, right? The question is that by going to the VC, you learn a lot. They ask a lot of tough questions. They allow you to think through some of the issue. So for some of you do not have a mentor, I suggest you go out there to ask the people you know for feedback. Okay. So that is one way to really getting feedback from other people. Okay. Next thing is that when you look for a mentor, I thought about it, right? We look for a mentor. What is the right criteria? If I were looking at a mentor 20 years ago, this is what we look for. Of course, everybody have different background, different. They have different skill set. They have different experience. They have different culture, different value. They may value differently. For me, these would be the 7 things I would look for your reference. Number 1, I want people with integrity. Like Warren Buffett said, when Warren Buffett look for people to invest, he said something like this. He wants people with intelligence, hardworking, and integrity. He said that the person has the first 2 skill sets, but without the last one, it's going to kill you. So that's why integrity is very important. Yeah, I see the type here. Any question you have, feel free to ask the question either type it in the question or talk on the microphone. Okay, question? Yep.
Can you give an example of not with integrity?
Well, for integrity, for example, very small thing. In 1999, when I went to work for a venture capital group in Hong Kong, this guy is very wealthy. During the discussion, he told me that I'm going to give you this much of stock option. Okay? I trust him. I didn't have black and white. So after 3 months, I mentioned him about the stock option. He did not respond. 6 months, he did not respond. In 9 months, I have a discussion with him. I said, you probably stock option, what happened? He said, I changed my mind. Then I made a look for a job. Within a year, I quit. So that's an example of integrity that as a Chinese, a promise is a promise. Because interesting enough, after I left, and when I left, he's since doing really well, but his whole company collapsed in about 2 years. So that is what I call integrity. You could detect that.
Got it. Thanks.
Any other question? Okay. The next question is important. 我们有时候同床异梦，对不对？ Because it's same bed, different dream. It's important for the mentor, the advisor, to share the value and the vision with the founder. As a mentor, don't try to change the founder. It's the same thing about marriage. Don't try to change your spouse. It's going to be very difficult. Ideally, the same value and same vision up front. If don't, most likely it's not going to be a happy partnership. So it's important for people to spend time with their founder and the mentor and find out if they share the value and vision. But most people ignore this part. Third thing, as an advisor, don't forget, this is not your company. If you want to own your company, start a company yourself. Your mentor, your advisor, you take a back seat. You are not the main actor. The main actor is the founder. Therefore, as a mentor, you got to support the founder. If you do not put the founder and the company's interest first, don't be a mentor. Otherwise, life is going to be too short, too painful. So that's the third criteria I have. And the fourth criteria I have, in looking back, is that business is very unpredictable. You have no idea what kind of problem you were facing. The same thing when I stepped into the CEO of a public listed company. I have no idea. This problem come up to me. I never face it on my 15-year working. When I never learned it in a business school or engineering school. But I got to have the intellectual capacity, able to figure out to solve the problem in 5 to 10 minutes. And sometimes I may have a luxury think about for a day or two. So having the intellectual capability, how to solve the problem and be confident about it is going to be very critical to the founder and to be a mentor. Because if you are not confident, and you're not going to be successful as a mentor either, because the founder usually are pretty confident, they're self-confident. If they would like to work with people who are also self-confident, you don't have a self-confident, be employee, don't be a founder as mentor. And also Have self-confidence is also sometimes you have to say no to the founder and point out it's okay to say you're full of it. This is why you're wrong. It takes a lot of self-confidence to do that. So the person do not have self-confidence, they most likely will not be a good mentor either. The fifth point is that experience helps. As I mentioned before, in the past 25 years, I see so many startups, seen so many mistakes. And for example, now I do this restructuring and turnaround with this company. This is my fourth turnaround. Essentially, I took on my PowerPoint, my processes, changed 10%. I have the entire process ready. Experience helps. My first time, I had to figure everything from scratch. Before, for example, one solution, and my first time it took me maybe 5 hours. And fourth time, the same problem, my solution in 5 minutes. That's why experience helps. And also a lot of mentor, advisor, especially academic advisor, they could talk very well, but they could not get things done. So having actual experience, for example, someone come to me and just said, how do I structure my stock option? For my CTO, how many stock options you give to them? What percentage? Right? For my engineer, how many shares do I give to them? So all I do is I go to my Excel spreadsheet I used 15 years ago. I say, okay, for your CTO, this percent. This is the range. For the engineer, this is the range. It all adds up to be 20%. Sometimes you want to be stingy, cut it down to 15%. If you want it to be generous, increase 25%. And basically, I get a spreadsheet that I could get sold the founder. That's what the range. I could able to solve his problem in a matter of 10 minutes. If you're academic, you say, okay, let me go there. You're going to do a bunch of research. And that's what I did the first time, right? Did a bunch of research, understand what the VC does, what the company does, look at the cap table. By the time it's gone, it's a couple of days later. So having experience helps a lot. Finally, also a real realistic expectation. I have been with Chris for 7 years. For a lot of people these days, especially young people, they get impacted by Mark Zuckerberg, by all these things. They want to from startup to be a billionaire in 1 or 2 years. You know, you could do it, it's great, but less than 0.001% of people could only build a billionaire company from in 1 or 2 years. So sometimes you got to have a realistic expectation, and also both the outcome and also the time. So any question on this? This is a very critical slide I talk about. Of course, you might have different criteria. This is my own criteria if I do over again. So by all means, you should figure out what is the best criteria for you when you find an advisor, you find a mentor. Any questions? So you understood everything. So I'm just curious. Is something? Would you do the same thing if you look for a mentor? How many of these criteria would you use? Anybody?
Hi, Chen Laoshi. This is Chen Chen.
Yeah.
So I'm just wondering. I have a question. So I'm just wondering, for us to look for an advisor or mentor, like these are the criteria or like principles that we are following to get that specific person. It sounds to me like you have to know this person really well, and that's how you get to know this person, right? And so, do you have any suggestion? What's the best way for us to find the mentor or advisor in this case?
I think it's very difficult to find a mentor who meet all these criteria since day one, right? So there's a concept of you do not have to find in a single person. Sometimes you could find different skills in multiple persons. And then as you move forward, as you become better known, as you become more successful, then a better mentor will come to you.
I see.
Right? So it's not day one, you just quit your job at Microsoft and you want to start business, you have no money, you want to find a mentor fit all these criteria. That's not realistic, right? But once you said, let's say, you know, if you are, let's say, if you're Microsoft for 10 years, you have a great product, you spend your spare time, you already have a prototype, you have some customers, and then you're looking for someone to give you a little bit of money, you launch your product. It's probably easy for you to find a mentor who went to is last senior, had more experience, and come to be a mentor, right? Or if you're a student, UW, you know, and then you are nothing, you just say, I'm a student in UW, I'm really bright, I study computer science, which is the top 10 in the nation. I want a mentor fit all these criteria. It's not realistic.
Makes sense.
So one has to be step by step, right? Okay. Any questions? Okay. Next guys. Then really, for me as a mentor, as advisor, what's my role? Number one, I want to make sure I check my own ego at the door. Remember what I said before? As a mentor, this company is not about me. It's about the founder. You want to make sure the founder is successful. A mentor is your behind the scene. Sometimes you're invisible, right? So that's very critical. Number two, sometimes there's a difference between, for example, I'm very opinionated. I have a very strong opinion about everything. But a lot of time, I hold back. I do not offer opinion unless the founder asks me. That is extremely difficult for a person like me. One founder approached me before share. Before approached me. He wanted to be his mentor advisor. I asked a bunch of questions, you know, and then I kind of said, you did this, you know. Sometimes, as a young founder, they don't have the perspective. You might scare them off. Because who the hell are you, right? Tell me what to do, right? So sometimes that's why it's a tough balance, especially your strong personality. So that's why I always remind myself, I don't want to offer opinion unless they ask me first. And sometimes it's okay to let the founder make mistake, but as long as the mistake is not major. Because sometimes the only way they learn is make mistake. When the founder approached me initially, he wanted me to advise him. I gave him some opinion. I said, you should do this. And he was not convinced. A year later, he come back to me and said, okay, I want you to be an advisor because what you told me a year ago is exactly on the money. So, you know, so sometimes it's good for let people make mistakes, so that's sometimes be an advisor do that. And sometimes to me, as an advisor, I provide very objective perspective in opinion. For example, a lot of times people come to me and say, I have this issue, I don't know what to do. So my key role is, based on my experience, based on analysis, I take a very complicated issue, then articulate a very simple term. Then I said, okay, you have option A, B, C. Option A, what are the pros and cons for each of these options. And then I will let the founder say, you make the decision. So I will tell them as is, I don't sugarcoat it. The last thing you want to do is a mentor who said everything, you're good, pay my P. You don't want to do that, right? So you want to make sure you tell as is. One of the key roles for me as a mentor is I always ask a lot of tough questions and push the boundary. So let the founder to see what they do not see. And actually ask question is probably a very good way of let people realize they do not know what they do not know. And finally, I look at my role as a founder. I'm basically a sounding board. I help them to strategize things. I provide financial advice. I actually help to do legal negotiation. I help to resolve, and deal with the accountant overcharge them. So I deal with the legal issue type of thing, right? And sometimes help to facilitate the relationship. My name is on the proposal for the NASA project. Officially, my name is actually in the NASA database. I'm one of the team members. I help to negotiate a little bit. I help to build a team and do assessment. And sometimes I help to do project management. But a lot of time, I really a troubleshooter. So that is essentially the role of a mentor advisor. Essentially, it's behind the scene persons. Does this make sense? Any question on this slide?
Hi, I have a question.
Yep.
As a mentor, what would you expect from your mentee? What criteria would you like to see from your mentee? I feel the mentorship
Very good.
always
Okay.
has one direction, right? So.
Okay, that's my next slide. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
For me, okay, how do I identify my mentee? I use similar thing. Number one, integrity. If they don't have integrity, I don't want to bother with. Number two, I want the person to be very, very have intelligence, smart, figure out this stuff, technically competent. Number three, skin in the game. In today's environment, does anybody know what OPM means? OPM is other people's money. A lot of founders, they say, oh, if someone give me money, I do the stuff. If I don't have money, I don't do the stuff. A Columbia Business School friend, we're a good friend, we're in the Columbia Business School. We're both in Hong Kong in 1995. And he was a director for EDS. He said, I want to start my own business. I said, what stopped you from starting your own business? He said, I need $10 million. I want someone to give me $10 million, I will start my business. Guess what? He never started his business. I started my business with $3,000. So the notion of skin in the game is very important. For Chris, who put the satellite, put the electron microscope in the International Space Station, he did not get salary pay for the first 7 years so far. He did not have any salary. And that is commitment that I'm looking for. And then the next thing is that everybody has blind spot, everybody has weakness. I want the founder to recognize their weakness and ask for help. Looking back, the reason why I didn't have a mentor in 1996, I probably was full of it. I thought I had everything. So that, looking back, that I don't want that kind of people to be a mentee now. I know the mistake I made 25 years ago. Okay? And then number 5 is very important. Willing to share. What does it mean willing to share? Willing to share is not only the equity, but it's also the power, information, and knowledge. Startup is very difficult. If you do not willing to share, there's no way